I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Guyanese critic.
erratic
Mikhail
detective, is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slapping Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi, happy Christmas to you, but Christmas is Wednesday, media work on holidays, so we have a Christmas program, but let's still wish you a happy Christmas. Holding the console with me on the console this evening is Leonard Craig. We are doing a special program, which is a new format. This is the new format for the Freddie Kissoon Show, in which social scientist Leonard Craig and long-standing academic Frederick Kissoon discuss sociology, economics, politics, culture, in short, discuss Guyana. When we have our guests, as you would have seen last Monday, we don't have much scope to say, I believe in this, I interpret this event in this way. So this new format gives us a chance to say things that probably would not even come up in with a guest. Like Leonard Craig has something on his mind, which is very, very, very important. The Land Acquisition of Land Act that the Attorney General is pioneering in Parliament, the amendment. There are things that James Bond said on the program that has to do with philosophical approach to life and people. James is not here, so we're not going to criticize him. James is a friend of both of us. But there are things he said in that program that we want to talk about. So this is the third edition of our format in which Leonard and I, two social scientists, interpret Guyana, interpret the contents of Guyana, which we would not be able to when we have the guests. So it's 2 days before Christmas, so we'd like to wish you a very happy holiday, but we will see you on Christmas night. There is a program, Leonard and I will be presenting a Christmas program to you. So let me hand over to the co-host of the Freddie Kissoon Show, Leonard Craig, and whatever he has in his mind, head or heart or soul, he'll put it on the table here now. Leonard?
Yeah, thank you, Freddie, and good evening to our viewers far and wide. We are going to start with a follow-up to the previous program where we had Charandas Prasad and James Bond. And there is something that is very, very dear to me that I want to present with a little more clarity to the viewers. Now, let me just back up a little to say that on our program, we don't do too many fancy things. ring bell and have background sounds and all those kinds of things. What we do is try to educate the public, right? More than entertain. It's not an entertainment show. We try to break things down and you are educated. So it is in that vein that I want to just discuss quickly this issue that came up. For those who watched the last program where James Bond was on.
The second to last program.
The second to last. The one that was aired on Monday. And I must say quickly, James Bond is not here to defend himself, so I would not criticize him, but my views are opposed to his, and I'm just presenting my views. James Bond or anybody else is willing to come back. We are willing to have James Bond or anybody else who's willing to defend that position in the opposite way. So what occurred on that program is that I made some statements regarding political party must reward their activists after hard work and attaining office. And his response was, people fighting for position. What about service? So my view is this, that if you are trained as a nursing assistant, you go to nursing school, you write exams, you put in a lot of work, sleepless night, you dissect probably small animals, whatever it is to help you to understand anatomy, physiology, and whatever other subjects they do in nursing. When you are finished doing your nursing, you have a legitimate expectation to work in a hospital treating patients. That's common sense, basically, to use the term. Similarly, if you go to teachers training college, you finish, you expect. Government sends students on scholarship every year. You go to Cuba, you go to China, Japan, wherever you go, and you study under government scholarship. The government prevents you from traveling out the country. You expect to have a job in the public sector because that's what is. I don't know how else to put it over other than say it's a legitimate expectation that you have, that you be employed in the public sector. Similarly, if you subscribe to a political party and you labor for years and through campaign after campaign alongside the leaders, and sometimes the activists do more than the leaders, right? The leaders are meeting all day, doing strategic moves, yes, and there's tremendous value in that. But there's also tremendous value in the people who go and do the microphone work and make sure the speakers are okay and all of that. Set up for public meetings and coordinate how the things happen, who go put up posters, and all of their role are equally important. Added to that, you take your image and likeness and you put it out there. You go on where this television program, you're seen on Facebook, whatever, and you're known to be aligned politically, and your name is on a public list. It therefore means then that you subscribe to the political party as a form of a career. There's some people that you know them for a long time. They dedicate their life to the work of a political party. And in some cases, and I can give you an example from my own experience, I spend a lot of time, my one parent of mine is from West Berbice, and I spend a lot of time in region number 5. And in fact, I helped to start the movement for AFC in Region Number 5. And to this day, though I am no longer associated with the AFC, to this day, when people see me in Region 5, they just call me the AFC man. Or people describe me to other people as, you know, the AFC man from wherever. And a lot of activists in political parties face this kind of thing. It therefore means then that is where you poured your energy, that is where you acquire your experience and all of that in politics, and literally it is your career. Yes, in Guyana, a lot of politicians' careers are part-time because people work as a lawyer and they still be a politician. In most other countries, many other countries, it is not so. You dedicate your entire life to politics. But in Guyana, politicians are part-time. But you also have to remember that when you subscribe to politics, you put your image and likeness and all of that out there, that your chances and economic opportunities and all kinds of other opportunities are dwindle, because lots of things that you could do, because you were in the opposition, the government don't want to touch. I'm not saying it is right. What I am saying is that it's the reality. So therefore, if your government, if your party takes government, if your party takes power, the natural thing to do is to ensure that all the people on your team, there is something that is called in public sector studies, you will learn that there is something that is called the merit system and the spoil system. And they work alongside each other in every country on earth. Donald Trump just won an election and he started naming people to this committee and this position and all of that. That is what it is called. It is a spoil system where you divide the spoils, so to speak. And if you're going to have a situation where a party takes government and 5 or 6 people are appointed to the highest level and everybody below them have to continue their life as per normal, as if the government was not won by this party, there is something vulgar about that, in my opinion. And I feel
ugly, immoral.
I feel strongly about that. There is something vulgar and immoral about that. That you campaign hard with comrades, and then when the election is won, just a cream of people are appointed to the highest position, and nobody else is part of the apparatus of government. And just quickly, and to just dismiss it as they're looking for position or job for the boys, something is immoral about that.
Leonard, there are other dimensions to that. It's a psychological thing to debate. If you're telling the second tier people that climb up on the lantern posts for 2 years during the campaign, some of them fall down, etc. If they're not entitled to a position, why are you entitled to a position?
Yeah.
I have been a practicing social scientist for the most part of my life. I have to do analysis, it may be wrong, but I can tell you in the AFC, some people that got position didn't bring in votes. Mm-hmm. Who would have voted for Noel Holder? Mm-hmm. He didn't even campaign, he didn't even speak at the political meeting. Mm-hmm. Who would have voted for Cathy Hughes and Dominic Gaskin? I want to make Gaskin an exception because he's a very decent man. That thing that he did by conceding that the election was lost is a magnanimous thing for which he should be given a national award. But who would have voted for Cathy Hughes? So when they came in, when the election result was over, why didn't Cathy Hughes and No Holder say, Not me. I don't want no position. There got people outside there. Craig, Marlon Williams, Trevor Williams. I see them people every day campaigning at night, Bissessa and them thing. Those people deserve. If they didn't give the second tier lead, if they didn't give Craig, Bissessa, why they give themselves? And the other thing is, why didn't Granger and Nagamutu and them say, well, look, we got to divide this thing and share this thing. David, you take 2 years, I take 1 year, then we can share it. Why Granger took 5 years? So when you look at it, there is a vulgarity in it that cannot be justified. Cathy Hughes, Noel Holder was minister. Noel Holder held the portfolio maybe of the most important cabinet. Forget about ministry and defense. Agri is our future. Huh?
I don't like to single out and call names.
Right, I do. I'm speaking and I do.
And I'm using that example, and I want people to understand this. And this is, in my opinion, one of the reasons why the government fell. Because, for example, in Noel Holder's ministry, Noel Holder declared to everybody, and you can't blame him, but he made a declaration. When they named him as minister, you know what Noel Holder said? I am not interested in politics, and if y'all put me there, y'all don't expect me to be politicking. I am going there to work like a public servant, and I'm going to discharge my duty like that in this politics thing. Now, if you are running a government inside the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and you don't understand the strategic importance of agriculture, and that die-in-the-wool politician got to run that ministry, you deserve to be put on the sideline. You don't deserve to be in office again ever. If you don't understand that the birthplace of politics in Guyana is the agricultural ministry, way back from Critchlow is credited for trade union movement, but what Critchlow was doing there was politics. I don't care if people could call it trade union, but that was politics, standing up against the colonial rulers. And then political parties were born out of that, and everything, the Enmore Martyrs and all of them came out of agriculture. And if you don't understand, you're in a party opposed to the PPP, and you don't understand that the agriculture is the bedrock of PPP support base throughout the country, whether it is in cane or whether it's in cash crops or whatever. If you don't understand that, and that you needed to have a die-in-the-wool politician running agriculture and connecting with the people, you deserve to stay in opposition for another 100 years. Let another generation, let another generation of people come and administer the party, because this generation is a waste of time. If you don't understand, that's elementary Guyanese politics. Politics 100. There any course lower than that?
I used to teach politics 100.
Well, probably there's a lower course than that.
Politics, politics
or politics for dummies.
We want to continue. Leonard Craig has something about the Acquisition of Land Act, but the Monday's thing with James and Charan was so interesting. We got a lot of viewership for that, because some of the things that were said out there, that James was saying you want position. I think inside his own heart, I don't believe James mean that. He probably got emotional on the program and say that. I know James want. But it's not that you want position. It's how these people related to you that had political value where they didn't have. I don't want to what's the former minister of finance name?
Jordan.
I don't want to get much into Winston Jordan. From my experience as a media operative, Jordan is a man that is ultra quick to say, I go sue you. So this thing about suing, it like it just comes like it's a devil inside a public official. They just want to sue. So I'm going to be careful with Jordan. But I'll give you one incident that shows you why these people, why they lost the election and why they're so extraordinarily stupid to say the election was rigged. They naturally lost an election because they were naturally ill-conceived people, flawed people. We talked, Jim, I give James one example of how I was treated. I was at the airport with my wife during the PPP in government, shortly before APNU came into power. And Mr. Jordan came over to me where I was sitting and engaged me about a piece of information in the public service about dispensation of scholarships. I don't want to go into what he said. I don't want a man to sue me. I don't have time for that nonsense. When I finish this program, I go home to my wife. I don't have time to climb coach step. But he came over and he talked to me about a piece of information that I suspect he think I could use in my journalistic work. After they won power and everything, I saw Jordan coming into Julian's at 6 and Common Street. And he never came over to me. And he just said, hi, Freddie. But he didn't just say hi, Freddie, at the airport when the PPP was in power. He came over and spoke to me. And I could give you so many examples that no psychologist could explain. And if there was a God, Leonard Craig is a strong believer. He's a practicing Seventh-day Adventist. God has to come down and tell Ramjatan, Nagamutu, and all of them, you are stupid people. Go out of this country and go somewhere into the wilderness. He has to tell David Granger, Basil Williams, and all them. I met Basil Williams. I having my plantain chips and fish at Nicky's in Juvie Lane, and he was leaving his eye for the, so that kind of attitude to life, to people, to politics, you had to lose elections. And the best thing they could do for God and country is to come together and apologize to the Guyanese people and admit that they were so extraordinarily stupid that they had to lose the election to a very astute political planner like Baba Jagdeo. The man got his force. Do you know? I don't know if Leonard Craig knows this. Do you know shortly after they attempted to rig the election in the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, you know what Nigel you said on Facebook? Nigel knows that, and because I'm an analyst, I have to read all these things. Nigel said that Baba Jagdeo did his work. He knew what was going on and he did his work.
Yeah. Nigel, you said
on the Facebook
they underrate the
man,
resolve of Jagdeo. Yeah.
The man knew that they were stupid people, that you don't practice politics like that, you don't exercise power like that, and these people were fools. They're gone, and we're gonna win the elections. And the man won the elections. And instead of they doing the decent thing and said, yeah, we messed up, they still say they won the election. How could anybody look what Craig, please read Leonard Craig's Monday columns every Monday in the Chronicle. Look how Craig, who was in the war room, the North room of the AFC, are saying about how these people behave. When you behave like that, you cannot win elections. President Ali asked to see me on Monday. I went to see him. He wanted my thoughts on UG. I can't say anything more than that. But I respect the man. The man know what I know about UG. I was there for 26 years. He got some ideas and he said, Freddie, share your thoughts with me in this. That is what normal, successful politicians do, Leonard.
Yeah, and so I want people to be clear, and people must understand that, look, even when you are walking the streets, and this is something, and let me just make an additional point before I move on to the thing. Even when you're walking the streets people tell you, boy, your government win now, you're gonna be all right. Because even the voters expect
that you to
that
be treated
people to be placed because they themselves see what you put out.
I experienced that when the AFC after the election confusion when we lasted 5 months. I remember people writing and said, Freddie, help them by. What they gonna get your car? I was writing so much against the AFC. You know how much time I remember one incident. I coming out of the supermarket and a taxi guy was saying, Freddie, it's your time now, boy. Yeah, even the voters expect that you fought for your country.
When they are running around and saying, oh, we didn't win for jobs for the boys, that you and whatever other excuses, that is not what the people themselves who cast a vote. They expect this proportional representation system, that everybody is on a list and all of that. That people on the list should be planned for. I thought, and I keep saying this often, I was extremely naive when the coalition won the election in this respect.
Or stupid.
Probably. I wouldn't accept the term, but probably.
Well, I was stupid for many years in my life.
I was naive stupid. In respect of this particular thing. I thought that as you take government, people are going to come, the leaders are going to come, sit at the table and say, here, survey the kind of skills you have among your people, survey people's interests. Some people's skill set might need to be developed. You send them for training, whatever. Other people got already developed skill set, and some people got transferable, what you call transferable knowledge. For example, all these concrete roads I hear the opposition are condemning. A lot of people have been mixing concrete all their life, but to build buildings and whatever, I understand it's different to build it in a road. But it's a type of transferable knowledge. And there's nobody in Guyana, big or small contractor, who have not built a road for the first time. Somebody had to start somewhere and build a road for the first time somewhere. And so you would have done a survey among your people, and then you determine as a policy of the party, how to place people to get the best value for the people of the country. I'm not talking about just taking people and place them willy-nilly. That's not what I'm talking about. But your party have to have a plan for the people other than the ministers. And for example, AFC failed miserably where that is concerned. And in my book, again, I'm saying that is something immoral about that. All right? The horse is starving while the grass is getting greener. It something is wrong about that. And I still don't believe, and that is why, again, the AFC, for example, that is why when AFC push their hand in the bag for new leaders, they're coming up empty, because they have not mentored anybody. They have not trained anybody. While they were in government, they didn't take no other comrade with them on any one of the trips and say, look, you sit down on this back seat and watch how negotiations are done. They didn't take anybody with them. They went on these trips alone, and I heard some people took. Anyway, let me don't get to that. But
you heard what? Some people went on what?
I'm not saying anything.
But you want to ask in Monday program, you're asking Charan.
No,
who was with this? Who was?
No,
with,
I can ask him. It's up to Charan.
No, you got a moral obligation not to ask, since you don't believe in that.
No.
Anyway.
So what I'm saying because nobody in the party other than the leaders who became ministers had international exposure. Nobody had any exposure with negotiating at a high level. Nobody had the contacts, the network of communication contacts among leaders either in Guyana or further afield. So you have nobody else to take over or to move on with the AFC. And that is why when they pushed their hand into the bag, they came up empty. And they had to go and bring Nigel Hughes, who had said he done and resigned with politics. But because Nigel probably has a light or good heart or deep sentiments for the AFC, Nigel decided to come back. But AFC cannot move on from the current crop of leaders. Also, I want to use a term James Bond used. What you don't use, you will lose. And a lot of the membership that worked hard for the AFC that weren't used, the AFC don't have them now. They're lost. And I believe they're lost for good. I hope this is a lesson to anybody who are contemplating a life in politics, a life in leadership, to understand that this is a golden rule in politics. Even the Pope appoints cardinals of his own choice, choosing and preference. And if you're in politics and you don't understand that this is a golden rule, sit out. Sit out. I can name you at least 3 or 4 ministries, in fact, all the ministries under the control of the AFC. Anyway, let's move on.
Continue. People watching you, people.
No. I'm saying the ministries.
People know that you held a high position in the AFC. They want
the ministries under the control of the AFC did not have functional senior operatives in any of the ministries. It's in agriculture and business, for example, it was more vulgar. You were saying that you want to give Gaskin a free pass. On those issues that you mentioned, probably yes. But on the issue of his practice of politics,
yes, of course.
It was vulgar and indecent.
I mean,
he went to that ministry alone from the AFC. He did not. Alone, and something got to be wrong with that. You're taking over, and I want people to understand, you're taking over a government from a party that was in power for 23 years. And you were going to go there alone? Who watching your back? and to understand why people are going to lose an election after that is not hard to understand. I am not saying that people who were in the ministry and appointed by the previous PPP should be dismissed. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying you got to be creative
and work with your people.
Same thing happened in the Ministry of Agriculture. There was nobody from the AFC, in fact, nobody from the coalition in the Ministry of Agriculture. And then to read one leader writing in a book that people were demanding positions that they're not qualified for.
Say that in his book. Please say that.
People were demanding positions that they were not qualified
for. He Chapman in his book.
That they were not qualified for. That may be so. You know why people would try to clamor? Because you had no program to say, look, we are going to survey and see what people's interests are, and then we are going to guide them in the things that are suitable. If you don't have that, yes, it's going to be like if it's a mad rush for this and for that, because you had no program to put these things in perspective. So people are going to come to you crying. And most of the hires in the AFC were mercy hires. People come crying, oh, man, I got food, this, that, I got food thing. And when you look at the long tears and you feel sorry for them, you take them in your ministry. But the party had no policy to include anybody other than the ministers. And again, I'm saying that is vulgar. And that is why the PPP remains an extremely strong party. That is why the PPP is going to win the next election, because they understand this very elementary concept that your comrades work hard alongside you. They have to be included in the apparatus of government, and they have to share the spoils of government along with you who become minister and leader.
You know, Leonard, I have been associated with the PPP now when I was 16. Those were the halcyon days of politics. I was a polling agent. I lived next door to the school, St. Thomas More RC School, and that was a polling station. And from 16, I started to climb politically. I became very active in Freedom House. I got a job at the microphone bookstore owned by the PPP. And I could tell you, I'm telling you, those people, I've been very critical of them. I'm a critic of power. But they see life and they see politics differently from the way the United Force under PTDGAR and the PNC saw politics. And it had showed up over the decades. I can tell you, maybe it has to do with the mosque and the temples that they grew up with in the countryside. There's definitely a disjunction between rural mentality and urban mentality. It probably has to do with urban people are busier than rural people. There is nightlife non-stop. There are jobs in the city. You change one job to the other. There are a million lineman spots. There are more places to go to. There are more funerals. There are more wakes. And therefore, people probably get tied up in the requirements of life in urban areas. Whereas in rural area, life is more pastoral. You don't have those outlets to divert your energy. So you see each other all the time. Women are housewives. They see each other. The girls and boys that go to high school, they come back home and they know their neighbors. And I think that for rural people generates a kind of more human closeness and a more human bonding than urban people. Urban people are just different. I think
more business-like.
Well, and I think that has helped the PPP's mentality from the 60s onwards, in which they remember Cha-Cha and they remember the Iraqi sister, right? Every year. And that, I think, has been. I was in the PPP since I was 16. I just loved the closeness when they have Diwali. We used to go and sell books and everything at the Diwali fairs. There's always that closeness, a closely knit thing. They're just different people. And I think that in many ways responsible for their success. When you see the 2015, 2020 government and the ministers and how they behave, even the times when I was critical of the PPP, when they're in power, their ministers did not behave like that. Let me say this to viewers. Let me say this to viewers right now so it could go in the history books. I was a vociferous, vehement critic of the PPP government. And I could have called PPP ministers and they would say, yes, Freddie, come. I called Sam Hines for 2 favors, a gun license and a house. I said, yeah, Freddie, I will wait for you in the morning. I had access to Anil Nandalal, the Attorney General. You know, I had access to President Ramatal. They never say me. And I couldn't even get a 5-minute edition with the minister. It's just the PPP. It had nothing to do with ethnicity. It got to do with cultural evolution. The PPP people are just different. They're just different.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing I wish to move on to is there is something in the air. There is a amendment to the Act.
Acquisition of Land Act.
Acquisition of Land Act, or what some people refer to as eminent domain. That the government has eminent domain over all lands, and for once it is to be used for public purpose, can acquire the land. And there were some amendments to the Act. I am not a legal authority, so I'm approaching this from a social science perspective. Now, that Act states that the government could acquire a land, and they must state the purpose for which they acquire the land. And if the land is no longer used for that purpose, I can't remember, it's the period, after a time it must be returned to the original owners. Also, if the government changed the purpose, it's still for a public purpose, but they changed for this, so they acquired the land to build a bridge. And then a year later, they decided that the bridge is best built further down, but we want to use this land for a hospital. They have to go through an additional legal process, probably publication of something, whatever, because the purpose has changed. Otherwise, they have to return the land to the original owner. My issue is this. It's the opposite that that I have issues with. There are large swaths of public lands that are given to private people for a particular purpose.
Operator, the monitor is gone. If you listen to me, sorry to cut you. Operator, the monitor is gone. Yeah.
So private people can also acquire public land for specific purpose. And if that purpose is not fulfilled within the time, I think usually they have a little agreement that the government inks between the government and the private person, that we are transferring this public land to you for this particular purpose. But what is happening in Guyana is that there are lots of private people who are holding on to public lands for decades and decades and decades, just hoarding public lands. And some of these people are filthy, stinkingly rich. And for me, and anybody who has a conscience, this is supposed to be immoral. This is supposed to be bad. This is supposed to be terrible. And especially when they are people, very, very, very poor people who just want a house lot. Something has to be wrong with that, and I'd like to use this forum to ask the AG in a similar manner as this law. I think the amendments are good, and I think the criticisms that are meted out based on the amendments, I think they are the criticisms are unfair. But I'd like to appeal to the AG in the same way that you looked at this law and address it. I would also like you to look at the law that requires transferring the land in the opposite direction and fix it. For the people of Guyana, the people of Guyana should not have their lands just transferred, and I'm talking about large swaths of land transferred to filthy rich private people, and they just hold it there.
The monitor is off.
And they just hold it there for decades and decades. And I think that should be, those lands should be returned to the people of Guyana to be used for public purposes or given to poor people.
Well, Leonard, I've always thought in that direction, always. In fact, I appeared in front of the Land Commission, headed by now deceased Professor Rudy James, and I spoke about that very thing, and I cited instances where when President Hoyt came into power, he gave lands to certain businessmen. Remember, his thing was to generate business back up. And opposite the Botanic Garden, he gave a huge piece of land to one of the trillionaire companies in Guyana, multi-billionaire companies in Guyana, very, very well. And that thing is still a jungle outside of Botanical Garden. Take back the land and put a police outpost there. Take back the land and put a fire service there.
Or just an open park for the people of Guyana. But to have
that thing outside the Botanic Garden there, Hoyt awarded that in 1990.
If that is the case,
it is the case. I noted, I mentioned it, and I spoke about it in the Land Commission. I gave testimony in front of the Land Commission.
Well, that is a prime example. We pass there every day. You're talking about next to the Chinese embassy opposite. Yeah, we pass there every day and we see the big jungle. I think I used to see a sign saying site for some hotel.
Yeah.
Oh,
and dozens of hotels have come.
Yeah.
The past 10 years that have been built.
I mean, that is a prime example of what I'm talking about. And Mr. Attorney General.
But hold on, you want a piece of that land?
Minister Anil
Would you like to have a piece of that? I would like to have a piece of that land, and then I could sell it and get some money to live in my older age.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why
so President Ali, Vice President Baba Jagdeo, and someone I admire intensely, Ani Nandalal, could you take back that land and give me a little piece? And I would,
I am not getting so specific on that specific land or you as a specific person to get a piece or whatever.
I would sell it. I would sell it.
I am talking generally speaking.
I need the money.
That for somebody, for example, I think when you go up Turkine by UG area there, Tulsi Prasad was in court with.
Yeah. I think that's
the government.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know
the
who won
government.
that.
I think Tulsi Prasad won the case.
Okay.
And he won the case on this basis that the government took over the family land back probably in Burnham days to be used for some public purpose, and it was never used. And they are claiming that, hey, look, this thing was never used for the public purpose, and decades have passed, and we want back the land. It should be returned to us under the law, and it was returned, I think, through the court. But I think the government should not have even waited for the court. They should have done the decent thing and returned the land.
I testified in front of the Land Commission, and I think the Kissoon group of companies, either they testified or they issued a statement in which they're saying the government owes them 3,000 acres of land. Now, I don't know why a $1 trillion company like the Kissoon Group of Company want 3,000. You know what I found out about that company? I found out there's a lot of properties in Guyana. And during the Land Commission thing in 2017, when I testified, the Kissoon Group of Companies said the government owed them about 3,000 acres of land by the MMA section there. What they going to do with all they have with 3,000 acres of public land?
So
you want a piece of land?
And so generally speaking, and on behalf of the people of Guyana, I think something is wrong with that. And if laws need to be amended or laws need to be enforced, I think the AG should look into that. And something has to be wrong with that.
Let me tell you what happened let me tell you a conversation I had on Tuesday gone, in the Memorial Garden where you commit. I went to I went to a funeral of my nephew who died at the Junction Hospital, and I think that calls for an inquiry. I am convinced that there was an element of neglect there. But I was in conversation with someone who's very, very high in the PNC leadership, and we knew each other long before he dreamt of going into the PNC. And we were talking, and he agreed that if he need any advice, he would ask me, although he knows I'm not a PNC, but I told him I give him it based on how I see it. And we were talking about an issue with the commercial banks, and he said that he may likely to file an injunction against the banks. I told him that I read the Anti-Money Laundering Act, and there is nothing in that act, viewers, absolutely is nothing in the Anti-Money Laundering Act that says when your account becomes dormant, you have to meet a long set of criteria, place of employment, when your account comes dormant, you just renew it. Mm-hmm. For God's sake, Leonard Craig, you just go into the bank, give them your ID card, and your account is renewed. Now, they want a whole set of documents. Now, a lady from Hand in Hand has some money there and in her account, and it's dormant. So they asked her for ABCD, she didn't have. She said, okay, I don't have these documents, I will close the account. They told her, no, you have to get these documents to close the account. That does not exist in the law. And it's a violation, basic, fundamental violation of people's rights. Yeah. And somebody need to file an injunction. This guy in the PNC leadership told me he may likely to file it. I'm asking lawyers out there to file that injunction.
And what is worse, Freddie, some of these people who have their money dormant in bank accounts have had their money there for donkey years. Yeah. So by just looking at it, you know that this cannot possibly have any relation to money laundering. Because you are the bank, and you can see how these people money came in over time through their salary, through their checks, whatever. And they probably have gone out the country and what have you. And for the years that this money is there, common sense, know that this could have nothing to do.
Leonard, why nobody can stop this?
Freddie,
I thought Mr. Jack Dio would have put on his foot in it. He's a no-nonsense financial
Christmas
guy.
Coming, and I might not have the time, but as soon as the New Year break, even if it's a one-man protest, I have to...
No, don't worry, it'll be a two-man protest. I'm joining you.
I am going in front, especially Republic Bank. Republic Bank is vulgar. Up to yesterday, and I took a photograph and it's on my phone. Up to yesterday, they have 3 ATM machines at opposite the Promenade Gardens there. And they closed off. And when you go
at Christmas time?
Yes, at Christmas time. And when you go to Camp Street, and I just made a circle because was just passing. I wasn't going to the ATM. I was just passing and I'm like, how could this be? And then I passed by Camp Street to see what's happening. Freddie, no less than about 600 people standing in the line. The line snaked on top of that platform, come right down into Camp Street.
In the heart of the city.
Into Camp Street, and was almost touching Regent Street.
And guess what?
I saw that with my own eyes.
Yeah, could you ascertain the social class?
Yes.
All our working class people.
Yes.
All our working class people.
Further.
Need their money to buy gifts for their children. This is wrong. This is wrong in Guyana.
Extremely. Then I what I started to do? I made a spin around where I know typical Republic Bank ATMs are, and I got all the photographs in my phone. There was a long line.
Don't all you with that operator to show it.
There's a long line.
If you send it to Robert's phone
might
number,
not have enough time, but let me just...
You could send it to Robert's number. You know Robert's number?
I don't know if people could see this. This is yesterday.
No. Send it to Senator.
We might not have enough time to put it on the screen because
No, let's see
we
if
have
we
to
let
go just
Senator.
closed yesterday.
Senator.
This is at Pegasus. Very long line. Then I spin at Mandela Avenue by the gas station. ATM was not working. It had on the face of the ATM in operator mode or something like that. Then when you go to and then inquired if an operator is there operating the machine, and they said no, it has been like that for hours. Then I went to there's another one on further up on Mandela opposite the New Citizens Bank there. That one was out of cash. The machine is working, you could punch in your numbers and so on, you could check your balance, but you can't get cash. It says the dispenser is down. I went to one in Kitty opposite Bounty, and they had a long line there. Then I went to Massey, and that was down. And something got to be wrong about that. These
Christmas time.
And these days, an ATM is like a
lifeline,
public utility.
It's a lifeline to people.
That mass.
It's like the cell phone become like a cell phone.
It becomes the
everybody
accessibility.
uses that.
And I would like to call on the governor. In fact, I am going to write him. I'm going to write the Minister of Finance, and the Vice President, who is also in charge. Bank of Guyana rules have got to be enacted to treat ATMs like a public utility.
I got something I want to probe your mind on this. I have a political theory, and I raised it on this program several times, and I want to probe your mind on this. I am contending that political parties, all, the PPP, the PNC, and all those that will be formed, including Virginia Besessa, National Democratic Front, the Alliance for Change. I am contending, Craig, and I want you to put your analytical mind to this. I am contending that if these parties go to working class areas during the campaign and promise them that the hassles they get at the bank, which has nothing to do with the Anti-Money Laundering Act. You can't ask somebody who got $50,000 and $50,000 and it's dormant. They got to meet the anti-money laundering criteria. I am saying I think those people are going to win votes. If you go to those crowded areas, Leno, where there are lots of people, places like Lenora, Port Morant, the West Coast, and you say you are being unfairly treated, we will correct this. I am saying they could get substantial votes. What's your take on that?
I think what people want, not everybody in this country or in most countries want to be rich, you know. People just want to live comfortably. And
I know my wife is one. My mother-in-law gave her the whole supermarket. She said, no, I don't want it.
Look, I studied in Germany for some time. And I met a young lady and became very, very close friends with her. And one day I made a comment to her.
It was platonic or erotic?
Platonic.
Platonic.
So you want me to bring tales out to school?
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, but I'm just using the example.
But you lied there just now.
And I said to her that when you launch your career and so on, it would be nice to work, you know, in a country such as ours, such as my country, and so on. And she said, though I'm in the international field and all of that, I won't want to go beyond Europe to work. I can go and visit and so, but I don't want to go beyond Europe to work because you know what? I like it here. I like when things work. I don't want to stress about.
My daughter tells me that all the time.
Just want
my
to be in a society where things work, where things function, where life is stress-free.
Craig,
and sometimes that is all
people don't get those hassles at the banks outside.
I lived in China for 3 years, and China got 1.4, almost 1.5 billion with a B people, and I've never ever spent more than 15 minutes
Craig,
in the bank. That's
Craig,
including spending time in the line and completing
Craig,
it. I've never spent more than 15 minutes in any one
Craig,
of the
the finance minister of the Republic of Guyana, one of the most senior decision makers, one of the person invested with gargantuan authority, said, and I think this should create depression for every Guyanese. He was addressing a body, and it was in the news all over. He said, all other countries have to meet the same anti-laundering act. So therefore, why is there this hassle in Guyana?
Yeah.
And I wrote a column about it and came on this program and quoted him.
Yeah.
So if he could say that, then we are lost.
So, for example,
If not,
and I can give you an example about China, and they say China is this draconian society. It may be politically and otherwise, but in that society, if your deposits, your total deposit or your history of deposits is not of a certain amount and of a certain kind, they don't even bother with you and the anti-money laundering requirements. They don't even bother with you because you are poor. There got lots of people, teachers and working in the public service. And their money don't spend more than a week on the bank. As soon as they get paid, they stand up in that line, collect the money out the ATM, and that's it. They're waiting for the next payday. And you are going to subject these people, the bank account don't add up.
That is happening every day in Guyana.
Don't add up to more than a certain amount.
And we have no one to help these people.
And you are going to subject them to all of these requirements, including in some cases probably they may be pulled in a corner. That's the only thing left to be done. They push in a corner with and somebody bringing a syringe to them and say, look, we got to get
Craig,
some blood.
I want to say this before the program. The operators told me we have 1 minute more. Craig, if by some weird logic I become the president, I would... Trump said the first day he's going to free those insurrectionists. Craig, if I become the president, the first day first two things I would do the first day. I would ask the DPP to charge the leadership of the AFC and send them to jail permanently. And the second thing I would do is ask that all those bank managers be charged for abuse of power and to be sentenced to indefinite
But you know you
sentences.
can't do that, right?
I would do that if I become... You can't.
No, you know you got to follow the law, Freddie.
You can't do that to what the banks are doing. And the finance minister now said it. The finance minister said it. All other countries are not people are giving people the hassles that Guyana is giving. When that man said that I had a heart attack, I had to be hospitalized.
Yeah, even for example, Freddie, when I was in Germany, for example, this thing about proof of address and all of that, I went there to a college. I was living on the campus, and to open a bank account, all I needed was my school badge.
But
my passport and my university badge. That is all I needed to open an account.
How we bring this to an end? What can we do? I'm gonna join you to picket.
No. As night follows day,
I will be there. Please join us in the picket next year, please.
Yeah. Next year in January, as night follows day, I'll be out there and I'll be in front of one Republic Bank branch after the other.
I will be joining you. We gotta go now. This is 2 days before Christmas, so if you don't see us on Christmas Day, on behalf of Leonard Craig or operators, happy holidays, enjoy your holidays. We will have a program on Christmas Day, Leonard Craig and I and our operators. Have a pleasant holiday if we don't run into you or you don't look at the program again. On behalf of Leonard Craig, catch you later, bye-bye.